Chapter 186 3 Pure World Cleansing 9 Heavens. I'm the son of the Heavenly Emperor. I'm the favored prodigy of the true dragons. I even obtained the inheritance of the great emperor. Why should I lose? On what basis? Long Shan roared in his heart. The mysterious power in the depths of his bloodline was activated. Boom. He erupted with a terrifying aura. Like a volcano erupting, he broke through the sword chi and sword shadows, and the surrounding land was crushed into ashes. High in the sky, Hanju saw a silver pillar of light shoot into the sky, directly dissipating the 3 pure world cleansing sea of sword chi. Hanju raised his eyebrows. This fellow gained a power-up? If this isn't the protagonist's treatment, what is? However, I love suppressing the protagonist. Hanju immediately activated the 6 paths dermic powers and slashed out another sea of sword chi, layer after layer. A total of 9 layers of sword chi. This was what Hanju had comprehended previously. He couldn't increase the strength of the 3 pure world cleansing, so it was better to increase the quantity. The 9 layers of sword chi were equivalent to 9 overlapping 3 pure world cleansing. This move consumed a lot of Hanju's dermic powers. If not for the fact that the 6 paths of reincarnation technique was an immortal emperor's cultivation technique, he wouldn't have been able to squander his dermic powers like this. 3 pure world cleansing 9 heavens. The 9-layered sword chi see quickly condensed sword shadows. There were countless of them, stunning all the mortals in the world. Most of the mortals couldn't see that it was Hanju using a mystical power. They thought that it was an immortal god preparing to unleash heavenly punishment and destroy the world. Oh my god, who can save us? Why? Why do the immortal gods want to kill us? What did we do wrong? The heavenly Tao is unfair. Immortal gods are heartless. Immortal gods are heartless. All the living beings in the world were wailing. As the battle between Hanju and Long Shan continued, it was difficult for the world to withstand the battle between heaven immortals. All sorts of natural disasters kept appearing in the numinous palace. The immortals were also stunned by this move. Does this kid have unlimited dermic powers? His comprehension of the sword Tao is extremely deep. That's not right. His Highness obtained the great emperor's inheritance. Could this kid be the same? His cultivation technique is not simple. Perhaps he also has an immortal emperor inheritance. Not necessarily. His Highness is about to use his full strength. Long Shan ascended to the sky and widened his eyes when he saw the sea of sword chi. He felt helpless for the first time. Who was this person? Was he really a heaven immortal? No, I can't lose to someone at the same cultivation level. Long Shan suppressed his uneasiness with anger. He raised his right hand, and the trident flew back to him. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a 10,000 feet long white dragon. His face was ferocious and his fangs were sharp like blades. His dragon eyes were bloodshot, like 2 huge beads of blood. Roaring, he charged at Hanju. The 3-headed and 6-armed Hanju was expressionless. He gently waved his sword, and the billions of sword shadows condensed from the 9-layered sword chi seed landed. At this moment, Hanju seemed to be the god of war who wielded the heavenly constellation and controlled the heavenly punishment. 3 pure world cleansing 9 heavens was basically the heavenly punishment. Having transformed into a dragon, Long Shan couldn't care less. He lost his mind and rushed towards Hanju at full speed. Millions of sword shadows descended. In the eyes of all living beings, the sky collapsed. Boom. 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 Countless sword shadows landed on the white dragon, who roared and continued forward. He only had eyes for Hanju. When he was less than 1,000 meters away from him, he was still forced to the ground by the 3 pure world cleansing. Countless sword shadows fell like a torrential rain. Hanju was high up in the rain and looked down coldly. The white dragon wailed as it was pressed down on the ground again, enduring the pain brought by the 3 pure world cleansing. The entire mortal world shook. Soon, the white dragon was covered in blood, and white bones could be seen. Hanju was expressionless, but he was panicking inside. The heavenly emperor was still not speaking. If this continued, he would really kill Long Shan. In that case, he and the heavenly court would fight to the death. He wasn't afraid. At most, he would escape. But then this world would be completely ruined, and no matter how strong he was, he couldn't compete with the entire heavenly court. At the same time, the immortals in the numinous palace were also anxious. Your Majesty, isn't it over? His Highness can't hold on much longer. This child is clearly waiting for the heavenly court to react. Otherwise, His Highness would already be dead. That's right. He didn't kill giant spiritual martial god earlier as well. I think we can accept him. Even the literature immortals started to change sides. Hanju's talent was too amazing. It would be a pity to kill such a prodigy, but letting him go would be even worse. The heavenly emperor's eyes flickered, but he did not reply. The divine general stood calmly without trying to persuade the heavenly emperor. Hanju watched as Longshan's body was destroyed, leaving only his essence soul. Longshan only had 1 star of hatred towards him. At this point, his hatred had yet to increase. He had decent morals. Join the heavenly court. A vast and domineering voice entered Hanju's ears. Voice transmission technique. Hanju immediately understood, detected that the heavenly emperor has invited you to join the heavenly court. You have the following choices. 1. Agree. Obtain the favor of the heavenly emperor. You can obtain a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Reject. Obtain the hatred of the heavenly emperor and the endless pursuit of the heavenly court. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance and a supreme treasure. 3 lines of words appeared in front of Hanju. When he saw the second option, he couldn't help but be speechless. Hanju asked in his heart, what about the mortal world? No more cleansing. The heavenly troops will retreat immediately. I'll join, but can you give me some time? I don't want to ascend now. Alright, I agree to join the heavenly court. Hanju stopped. 3 Pure world cleansing 9 heavens vanished. Longshan's soul lay in the huge pit, on the verge of death. The heavenly troops heaved a sigh of relief. If Longshan died in front of them, they would all have to die with him. At this moment, the heavenly emperor's voice resounded through the world. This mortal world was infiltrated by the devils and should have been wiped out. However, someone stood out and used his aptitude to exchange for peace. Hopefully, everyone will remember his contribution today. Heavenly troops, retreat. Restart the heavenly rules. The world fell silent. All the natural disasters stopped as if a mysterious force was calming everything. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. The heavenly emperor had indeed kept his promise. The heavenly emperor has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. You chose to join the heavenly court and obtained a heavenly Tao spirit stone. The heavenly troops immediately left with giant spiritual martial gods and Longshan's souls. Hanju followed and checked his interpersonal relationships. The image of the heavenly emperor was very domineering. This fellow looked very similar to the heavenly emperor in Hanju's imagination. In Hanju's opinion, the heavenly emperor should be high and mighty, like Qin Shi Huang, and not the weak jade emperor in Journey to the West. Heavenly emperor, cultivation unknown. Lord of the heavenly court, immeasurable emperor. He controls all the immortals and gods. His temperament is unfathomable. Because of your talent, he has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. What was the immeasurable emperor? Hanju was secretly curious. He turned around and flew back to the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect was cheering because they saw Hanju leave the mountain. The person who saved the world and obtained the recognition of the heavenly court was their deity-slaying elder. When he arrived at the Fusang tree, the disciples were all pleasantly surprised. The Black Hell Chicken asked excitedly, "We don't have to run anymore?" Hanju smiled and nodded. Yes. The others surrounded him, each more excited than the last. Feng Liang asked excitedly, "Grandmaster, are you going to the heavenly court?" Hanju smiled and said, "Not yet." Although he survived this tribulation, he didn't want to go to the heavenly court immediately. It would be troublesome. He had definitely offended many immortals in this battle. Chapter 187 The Greatest Support. The immortal gods retreated. The mortal world was peaceful. For a time, the world was filled with laughter. The Jade Pure Sacred sect was even more joyous and lively. Hanju chatted with his disciples for a while before returning to the cave abode. He had benefited greatly from this battle. Divine General's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 3 stars, when Xuxing's hatred towards you has decreased. Current hatred points, 1 star, Di Taibai has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 2 stars, Thunder God has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 2 stars, Shu Jinxing has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star, Marshal Shinpeng has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star, a series of notifications appeared in front of Hanju. Most of them were favorable impressions. The immortals weren't stupid. Hanju's performance was enough for him to become the next divine general, so they naturally wanted to rope him in. Of course, some immortals were secretly jealous. However, they didn't expect Hanju to be able to see their favor and hatred. Hanju stabilized his state of mind. Today's battle made him realize his shortcomings. Previously, he had killed those above his realm instantly. Now, he needed some time to fight them. Although Long Shan was also not simple and was a genius of the heavenly court, it still made Hanju uneasy. No, I have to increase my strength. The higher the cultivation realm, the smaller the difference between those of the same cultivation realm. Hanju didn't want to be unable to defeat enemies of the same cultivation realm in the future. Thinking of this, Hanju perked up. He had to work harder. Time passed. 10 years passed after the heavenly troops left. Peace returned to the mortal world. The fiendish cultivators were almost extinct. Previously, the devils had caused the heavenly court to clean up the mortal world, causing the righteous path and the demons to hate the devils. The fiends were also afraid of the immortals from the upper world. Therefore, the fiendish cultivators had repented one after another. The Jade Pure Sacred sect knew that it was Hanju who fought against the immortal gods, causing this matter to spread throughout the world. Portraits and statues of him were everywhere. Of course, the drawing was not accurate. The image of the statue was also very different from Hanju's. For 10 years, the immortal gods did not descend into the mortal world again. Hanju also cultivated in peace. On this day, Ji Xianchen came to visit. The two of them met in the forest. You want to ascend? Hanju asked in surprise. Ji Xianchen nodded. The immortal god calamity has passed. There's no need for me to stay in the mortal world anymore. Besides, I'm different from you. I don't have the means to stay in the mortal world. I don't want to acknowledge you as my master. Hanju remained silent. Ji Xianchen asked, when will you ascend? Hanju replied, we'll see. He would be a soldier once he entered the heavenly court. How troublesome. Ji Xianchen snorted. Then, I'll go to the heavenly court first and look after you in the future. He immediately regretted it after saying that. The current Hanju was already so strong that even if he ascended, he might not be able to surpass him. No, I can't think like that. I'll surpass him sooner or later. I was born to be the strongest. Ji Xianchen's gaze was firm. Hanju smiled and said, then, I wish you a bright future. Ji Xianchen's mood improved. He asked, when will Fang Liang ascend? Depends. The two of them fell silent. Finally, Ji Xianchen left. Hanju was about to turn around and leave when he bumped into someone. The heavenly emperor. Hanju retreated in fear. He had always remembered the image of the heavenly emperor. After all, he was a big shot. The heavenly emperor looked as tall as him. He wore a white robe and was not as domineering as he looked. He also had a scholarly aura. Hanju took a deep breath and calmed down. The heavenly emperor had a 3-star favorability towards him. He shouldn't harm him. The heavenly emperor smiled and said, Hanju, when I asked Shaner to deal with you, I wanted him to go all out and fight you with the determination to kill. Hanju was silent and looked at him quietly. It wasn't that I wanted him to kill you. I just wanted to see your potential. You didn't let me down. The heavenly emperor's smile was very kind and did not give off any pressure. Hanju asked in surprise, you wanted me to join you from the start? The heavenly emperor placed his hands behind his back and smiled. You're not simple. You don't cultivate the grand unity Tao. but you can attract many people with great providence. Even the jinx of my heavenly court has acknowledged you as his master. Perhaps you have a destiny that even I can't see through. Hanju was secretly shocked. On second thought, it made sense. What kind of existence was the heavenly emperor? How could he not see through Su Qi's foundation? Are you afraid of trouble and don't want to enter the heavenly court? Is that why you're stalling? How can that be? I can see very little karma in your life. You have interacted with fewer people than mortals who have lived an entire lifetime. I was curious and deduced the first half of your life. I didn't expect you to be a freak who had been cultivating since you were young. A freak, Hanju felt humiliated. The heavenly emperor smiled. If you don't want to enter the heavenly court and get involved in trouble, that's fine. Hanju was stunned. The heavenly emperor was letting him go. I'll let you replace Qi Yunxian and become an immortal official in this mortal world. How about that? As for Qi Yunxian, I know that you have a good relationship with him. He will be promoted. No immortals will disturb you usually. In terms of treatment, I'll let you enjoy cultivation resources like my son, Shaner. When you become stronger, you can become the second divine general of the heavenly court. Replacing Qi Yunxian, Hanju was tempted. The heavenly emperor continued, normally, you don't have to go to the numinous palace to attend our court meetings. I will send someone to find you if necessary. If you have any requests, you can ask him for help. After all, I'm the heavenly emperor. I can't always be around you. Understanding what he meant, Hanju asked carefully, are you trying to conceal me? This treatment was too good, and it also suited Hanju's intentions, but from another point of view, it was equivalent to depriving him of authority and fame. The heavenly emperor said calmly, the heavenly court is deep and complicated. I want you to be mine and not the heavenly court's. Do you agree? Hanju wasn't stupid. This was a matter of choosing sides. If he refused, he would be dead. Moreover, the heavenly emperor was very sincere and didn't beat around the bush. It suited Hanju's taste. Being with the heavenly emperor shouldn't be bad, Hanju said, of course. To be honest, I don't dare to ascend because I don't have a backer in the upper world. I still have many enemies. The heavenly emperor smiled faintly. You killed the people they planted in the mortal world, right? From now on, I'm your greatest backer. The Vermilion Bird Clan and the Dragon Immortal Island will no longer make things difficult for you. Of course, you can't cause trouble unless others provoke you. In addition, don't spread this conversation and don't tell Qi Yunxian. The mighty leader of the heavenly court still had to keep it a secret. The dangers within the court were truly unfathomable, Hanju nodded. Don't worry. You should have already observed my character from the first half of my life. The heavenly emperor's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability. For stars, the heavenly emperor raised his right hand, and a scroll appeared in his palm. This is the Sword Dao inheritance of the heavenly court. You should like it. Hanju caught the scroll and was about to speak when he looked up. The heavenly emperor had already disappeared. As expected of the immeasurable emperor, he really came and went without a trace. Hanju opened the scroll and saw 3 words, Heavenly Sword Dao. Chapter 188 D Tai Bai, Late Stage Reincarnation Heaven Immortal Realm. After returning to the connate cave abode, Hanju took out the Heavenly Sword Dao scroll and began to comprehend it. A technique given by the Heavenly Emperor was definitely not simple. Dao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, what's this? Hanju replied, a sword Dao. Dao Comprehension Sword's eyes lit up. Can I learn it? Hanju looked up at her and snorted. I'll teach you after I learn it. If Dao Comprehension Sword could become stronger, Hanju would naturally be happy. She couldn't continue being just a decoration. Besides, Hanju believed that he could obtain stronger mystical powers in the future. He wasn't afraid of teaching his disciples and having them overtake him. With Dao Comprehension Sword's feelings for him, it was impossible for her to betray him. Even if she did, Hanju had already left the 6 Paths insignia. There were many ways to resolve it. This might be unfair to Tao Comprehension's sword, but one had to be wary of others no matter what. Voma, even if it was the woman closest to him, Hanju couldn't trust her completely. Longevity was the top priority. He couldn't be blinded by emotions. Hanju stopped thinking and focused on comprehending it. The more he looked at it, the more shocked he became. This heavenly sword Tao was something. It could definitely help him increase his strength. Numinous Palace. The heavenly emperor sat on his throne and resumed his arrogant and domineering attitude. There was only one person in the hall. A white-bearded old immortal. This immortal was called Deitai Bai, and his status in the heavenly court was equivalent to the leader of the literature immortals. Deitai Bai asked curiously, "Your Majesty, did you really reward the heavenly sword Tao to that person?" The heavenly emperor said, "Yes. With his aptitude, he should be able to master it completely in less than 1,000 years. Deitai Bai sighed. It's only a matter of time before the heavenly court flourishes with such a genius. I don't plan on letting him be part of the band of immortals. At least, I won't consider it until he becomes a golden immortal. That's good, too. He won't be targeted by the Divine Palace, Buddhist sect, and Demon Court. In the future, you will be in charge of him. If he has any needs, as long as he doesn't cross the line, you will do your best to satisfy him. If anyone harms him, you will also step in. Do you understand?" "Understood. How's Shauna?" "His Highness has already recovered his physical body and his Tao heart is stable. He doesn't hate Hanju or you. Instead, he feels that he's not strong or hardworking enough. Good, he has greater character and drive than his siblings." The heavenly emperor smiled and looked outside the numinous palace. Deitai Bai hesitated for a moment before saying, "The reincarnation of the immortal emperor of the divine palace has already awakened the emperor Tao. The Buddhist sect and the divine palace seem to." The heavenly emperor snorted. "They have colluded, right? The heavenly court is the orthodox lineage recognized by the Tao ancestor. Now that the Tao ancestor has been in seclusion for countless years, they all want to overthrow the heavenly court's rule. It's fine. The heavenly court also has its own connections. We won't collapse." Deitai Bai smiled and nodded, seeming to have thought of something. The heavenly emperor said meaningfully, "That person in the netherworld seems to have established some kind of agreement with Hanju. If the demon saint's soul is transferred to his mortal world, you will help hide this matter. Of course, you can't let that person in the netherworld know that it's my intention." Deitai Bai was stunned and quickly agreed. 5 years later, Hanju had completely mastered the heavenly sword Tao. He couldn't help but sigh. This sword Tao was truly unfathomable. Even with his top-notch sword Tao potential and top-notch sword Tao comprehension, he actually took 5 years to completely master. If it was anyone else, they would probably never be able to learn it in their lifetime. The heavenly sword Tao was divided into 4 levels. First level, sword pierces heaven. Second level, severing karma. Third level, sword creates the primordial world. Fourth level, immortal slaying sword formation. When Hanju first saw the immortal slaying sword formation, he couldn't help but recall the one from the investiture of the gods. Only the 4 saints could break it. After he mastered the immortal slaying sword formation, he understood that it was not as invincible as he had imagined. The power of the formation in the heavenly sword Tao depended on the sword's power. Hanju immediately entered the simulation trial. Previously, when he fought with Long Shan and giant spiritual martial god, he had already let the system copy their strength. With the heavenly sword Tao, Hanju instantly killed Long Shan. He had only used the first level of the sword Tao, sword pierces heaven, against giant spiritual martial god. It was also an instant kill. Hanju tried fighting the 2 of them at once. He still insta-killed them. The heavenly sword Tao was very powerful. Hanju was happy. He raised his finger and taught Tao comprehension sword the first level of the heavenly sword Tao. A beam of light entered Tao comprehension sword's forehead and her body trembled before she entered a mysterious state of comprehension. Hanju continued cultivating and strove to reach the late stage of the reincarnation heaven immortal realm as soon as possible, although the heavenly emperor had become his backer. He wouldn't entrust everything to him. Everything still depended on himself. Time passed. 20 years passed in a flash. The calamity of the heavenly court decades ago had completely passed, and the world no longer mentioned it. The cultivation world had also returned to normal. Some people fought, some ascended, and some also preached about the world. Because of Hanju, the Jade Pure Sacred Sect had benefited greatly. It had already become a holy land of the 10 states and 9 dynasties. A continuous stream of itinerant cultivators and mortals came to worship it. Hanju wasn't disturbed the entire time. He cultivated in peace and successfully broke through to the late stage of the reincarnation heaven Immortal Realm. On this day, Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain welcomed a guest. It was deities by. He directly stepped into the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain and ignored the mountain protecting array formation. Even the defensive array formation of the Dao field was useless. Yang Tiandong, Chu Shuren, Fang Liang, and the others were frightened. They all stood up, thinking that he was an enemy. Deities by smiled and said, "Don't panic. I'm an immortal god of the heavenly court. I'm here to offer an immortal position to Hanju." Everyone looked at each other. Deities by glanced at the Fusang tree and was secretly shocked. So it was the Fusang tree, no wonder he could cultivate in the mortal world. Deities by walked towards the connate cave abode. Hanju opened the entrance and chased Dao Comprehension sword out. After entering the residence, Deities by and Hanju greeted each other. Hanju also learned his identity. Deities by perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm, a second-grade literature immortal of the heavenly court. He is the leader of the literature immortals and is one of the right-hand men of the heavenly emperor. He is deeply trusted. Because of your potential and the heavenly emperor's favorability towards you, he has a good impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. Previously, it was a 2-star favorability. Now, it had increased by 1 star. It was worth mentioning that the system could detect the perfected Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. However, Di Hongya, the Divine General, and the Heavenly Emperor's cultivation levels couldn't be shown. This meant that the 3 of them were at least immortal emperors. Deities by took out a golden token from his sleeve and said, "This is a heavenly Dao token. It can allow the heavenly Dao in charge of this mortal world to contact me through this token. If you have any needs or troubles in the future, you can look for me and place a soul mark on it." Hanju smiled and accepted the token. Deities by didn't leave immediately and started to converse with him to get closer. The heavenly sword Dao that His Majesty gave you is not simple. If you can learn it in 1,000 years, it shouldn't be difficult for you to become an immortal emperor in the future. Deities by smiled. 1,000 years, that long. Hanju was puzzled. Deities by sighed. Don't you think it's exaggerated? In the past, a sword immortal in the heavenly court used 10,000 years to learn it. He once severed the river of destiny with a single strike and shocked the heavens, causing all the major factions to have no choice but to repair it. Chapter 189 Heavenly Emperor's Sigh, ranking in the myriad worlds. Sever the river of destiny, so powerful? Although Hanju had grasped the heavenly sword Dao, he wasn't that strong. This was normal. No matter how powerful a mystical power was, it still depended on one's cultivation level. Hanju asked curiously, "What's the river of destiny? Is it like the sword Dao river? It doesn't exist on the surface but in a deeper space?" Deities by replied, "That's right. The river of destiny holds the destiny of everyone. If it's broken, all lives will be lost. Therefore, this is a taboo. All forces have to maintain it." Hanju was deep in thought. This cultivation path was more complicated than he had imagined. When you master the heavenly sword Dao, remember to tell me. I have to tell His Majesty about this and make him happy. Deities by stroked his beard and smiled. Hanju hesitated. Should he come clean? If his talent was too exaggerated, would it attract the heavenly emperor's fear? But on second thought, who was the heavenly emperor? Would he fear a junior? If that was the case, how could the divine general from back then survive? There was no need to hide. Hanju said, "To be honest, I've already grasped the heavenly sword Dao." Deities by smiled and said, "Not bad, not bad. You learned, what?" You mastered it? Stop bragging. This leader of the literature immortals couldn't remain calm. Impossible, that was the heavenly sword Dao, Hanju said helplessly. I can't prove it by attacking you, right? Besides, the mortal world can't endure such a commotion. If you don't believe me, we can go to the void to affirm it. Above the mortal world was the starry sky. Above the starry sky was not the immortal world, but a void with nothing. Di Tai Bai immediately said, let's go. He waved his right hand. In a flash, Hanju arrived in a dark space. There was no light, but the two of them were immortals. Their bodies emitted a faint divine light. Use your heavenly sword Dao against me with all your might, Di Tai Bai said. Hanju didn't hold back. 5 minutes later, the void returned to tranquility. Di Tai Bai looked at him with a complicated expression. Hanju was the same. This fellow was actually a sword cultivator. Wait, could it be that the sword immortal that Di Tai Bai had bragged about earlier was himself? Crap, in that case, didn't I slap him in the face? It was not my intention. Hanju only wanted to gain benefits and become stronger. He didn't want to gain enemies. Fortunately, Di Tai Bai was not a petty person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have changed from 1-star hatred points to 3-star favorability. Di Tai Bai sighed. I underestimated you. His Majesty also underestimated you. Di Tai Bai's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 4 stars, Hanju hesitated. About this, Di Tai Bai smiled and said, don't worry. In this world, only you, me, and His Majesty will know. No fourth person will find out. Hanju was completely relieved and smiled. I will immediately inform His Majesty about this. This is the fortune of our heavenly court. Di Tai Bai smiled and sent him back to his cave abode. Next, he returned to heavenly court. Hanju didn't think too much and continued cultivating. Dao Comprehension Sword returned to the cave abode. She pouted and asked, who was that old man? Hanju replied, what does that have to do with you? Have you learned the heavenly sword Dao? It's so difficult. I have yet to comprehend it. Then why aren't you working hard? There's nothing to think about all day. I only used less than half a year for the first level of the heavenly sword Dao. What about you? It's been 20 years. I was wrong. Dao Comprehension Sword was ashamed. She felt that her aptitude was too poor and she had let him down. Hanju snorted. You must master it within 100 years. Otherwise, I won't teach you the next levels. Alright. Dao Comprehension Sword's fighting spirit was ignited and her eyes lit up. Although the heavenly sword Dao was vast and profound, ever since she started learning it, her cultivation speed and strength had steadily increased. Most importantly, Hanju didn't teach this sword Dao to anyone. Dao Comprehension Sword felt that she was receiving special treatment and was naturally in a good mood. Numinous Palace. The Heavenly Emperor was moved. It's only been 25 years, but he has already grasped the heavenly sword Dao? Di Tai Bai suppressed his excitement and said, that's right. I've already tested it. It's indeed the heavenly sword Dao. He can even use the immortal slaying sword formation. The heavenly emperor was in a daze. The hall fell silent. Di Tai Bai didn't dare to disturb the heavenly emperor's thoughts and remained silent. There were only the two of them in the hall. After a long while, the heavenly emperor sighed. I really underestimated him. Di Tai Bai also smiled and said, Your Majesty is truly wise. You spared his life. Otherwise, he would have died decades ago. The heavenly emperor smiled. There's a Fusong tree on the Cultivate, diligently become immortal mountain. Let's give him some immortal water that can help the tree to grow. As for Dao techniques, we won't give them for the time being. This kid's cultivation technique is not simple. He probably obtained the inheritance of an immortal emperor, the heavenly emperor said. Di Tai Bai said in surprise, an immortal emperor's inheritance? Then, are we? The heavenly emperor waved his sleeve. Which immortal emperor can compare to me? Besides, Hanju has too little karma. I guess that immortal emperor doesn't care about him. 10,000 years later, even if that immortal emperor gets tempted, will Hanju listen to him or me? Don't keep thinking about potential danger. We need to invest first. Prodigies like Hanju and the Divine General will definitely not be willing to submit to others. When Hanju becomes an immortal emperor himself, how can he put another immortal emperor in his eyes? Deitai Bai was filled with admiration and hurriedly bowed, seeming to have thought of something. He said, "A mortal named Ji Xianchen ascended. He has a karmic relationship with Hanju. Previously, they agreed to fight against the heavenly troops. The heavenly emperor said, arrange for him to get a heavenly general position. He will be given 7th grade treatment. Tell him not to reveal anything about Hanju." Understood. In the blink of an eye, another 7 years passed. Deitai Bai had sent some immortal water to the Fusong tree during this period. There were a total of 7 bottles, which could help the Fusong tree grow faster. 1 bottle would be used every 10 years. Hanju was very happy. His favorability towards the heavenly emperor increased greatly. He personally watered the Fusong tree with immortal water. On this day, Hanju thought of the heavenly Tao token, was now considered an immortal god, but he had yet to make the heavenly Tao token recognize him as its master. That was quite irresponsible. The process of using a soul mark to make the token recognize him as its master was not complicated. In less than 2 hours, Hanju grasped the heavenly Tao token. At the same time, he sensed the heavenly Tao in the mortal world. It was the starry sky of the universe above the sky. It was like a painting that enveloped the mortal world. Through the heavenly Tao token, Hanju could look down on the entire world and even see every mortal. He tried to look at Zhou Fan and quickly caught sight of him. Zhou Fan was cultivating in a holy land. He looked at his other friends and easily found them. Is this the feeling of an immortal god? How satisfying! Hanju's divine sense caught a stone tablet in the heavenly Tao token and stood in the darkness. After his divine sense entered the stone tablet, a huge amount of information entered his consciousness. It was actually the ranking of the myriad worlds. Hanju's mortal world was called the Scarlet Cloud World. It was probably named by Qi Yunxian. It was ranked 4,932. It was not a high ranking, nor was it too low. There were more than 9,000 mortal worlds. There are still rankings among the mortal worlds. Interesting. Hanju didn't think too much about it. He couldn't be bothered to help the Scarlet Cloud World climb up in ranking. This was good. Being in the middle meant it was not eye-catching. It was unknown how the ranking was calculated. He had to ask Deitai Bai when he had the chance. Chapter 190 Great Sage Equaling Heaven, Buddha Bodhi. Hanju placed the heavenly Tao token into the little universe belt. He then took out the Book of Misfortune and the heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and started to help the Book of Misfortune level up. Although it seemed peaceful now, and he had a strong backing, he couldn't relax. Even the heavenly court was threatened by the Buddhist sect and the immortal world. The heavenly court was not the strongest force. After a long while, a line of words appeared in front of him. Book of Misfortune upgraded to a Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Treasures were classified as Dharma Artifact, Numinous Treasure, Supreme Grade Numinous Treasure, Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, Supreme Grade Grand Unity Numinous Treasure, Grand Unity Supreme Treasure, and Supreme Grade Grand Unity Supreme Treasure. Hanju tried it after raising its level. He cursed Taoist Dan Qing first. After cursing for 5 days, his lifespan began to decrease. Hanju remembered this time. He could curse the same person for no more than 5 days. Hanju continued cursing, including the immortals in the heavenly court who hated him. While cursing, he checked his emails. The last time he checked his emails was 10 years ago. Your good friend Ji Xianchen was attacked by a heavenly soldier, X10006. Your good friend Mo Fuzhou has returned to the mortal world. Your grand disciple Feng Liang dreamed of the primordial era. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your Tao companion Xing Hongxian was attacked by demon beasts, X8653. Your Tao companion Xing Hongxian encountered a fortuitous encounter and her cultivation level increased. Your good friend Long Shan was attacked by demon beasts, X230584. your good friend Zhou Fan obtained the dragon bone and his body transformed. The cultivation world began to stir again, but many people still obtained opportunities. Hanju noticed the news about Long Shan. The number of times he had been attacked was a little exaggerated. Could it be that he had been thrown into the demon region by the heavenly emperor? Long Shan used to have 1 star of hatred towards Hanju. But for some reason, it became 2 stars of favorability. The heavenly emperor probably did a lot of persuasion. Hanju watched for a while and then focused on cursing. Now that he was already an immortal, he naturally could not interfere with the matters of the mortal world. Even if the world had changed, he still had to continue cultivating. Hanju's next target was the true immortal realm, to break through to the true immortal realm as soon as possible. Spring passed and autumn came. 25 years passed. Hanju had yet to break through to the perfected reincarnation heaven immortal realm. On this day, he walked out of the cave abode and came to the Fusang tree. Under the Fusang tree, other than the black hell chicken, the 2 golden crows, the 3-headed Wirm king, 2 linger, and Shushurun, the others went out to train. Ever since he became an immortal god, Hanju no longer restricted them. In any case, it was impossible for anyone to cause trouble in his mortal world. After being irrigated by the heavenly court's immortal water, the Fusang tree was already 3,000 feet tall. It was an extremely spectacular sight. It was already the most amazing scene in the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The 7 seeds of the earth immortal gourd vine were also growing continuously. It was unknown when they would be able to give birth to a living being. Master, I have some questions regarding cultivation. Can you guide me? 2 Linger came over and asked with a smile. She finally had a chance. Hanju asked, tell me. 2 Linger was indeed puzzled about her cultivation. However, after Hanju's explanation, she didn't stop and started chatting with him. Hanju knew what she was thinking, but he didn't care. He looked at Chushurin and said, look at your disciple nephew. His cultivation level is almost catching up to yours. Chushurin's cultivation level had already reached the 8th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm and was already close to the Body Integration Realm. 2 Linger was at the Body Integration Realm, still a distance away from the Tribulation Transcendence Realm. Hearing this, 2 Linger immediately felt awkward. She fled and focused on cultivating. Chushurin stood up and came in front of Hanju. After bowing, he hesitated. Hanju smiled and asked, what? You still want to persuade me to give up cultivating? Chushurin took a deep breath and said, that's right. Grandmaster, you're already an immortal. You can completely make all the living beings in the world give up on cultivation. In the past few years, he had hardly cultivated because he had such thoughts. Hanju chuckled and said, my goal is not to make all the people in the world give up on cultivation. Shurin, do you live for yourself or for others? Shurin was stunned. Of course I live for myself. I just want my life to be meaningful. In your opinion, shouldn't humans also give up raising livestock? Pets are also living beings. That's right, all living beings are equal. What do people eat? Food. You think wheat isn't a living being? You believe in the cycle of life and death. Do you know why there are different types of reincarnation? It's precisely because there are different levels. If bad people commit sins, they won't be able to give birth to a good child in their next life. If good people suffer in this life, they can be rich in their next life. This is the true balance. You've walked on the wrong path. Shurin frowned and hesitated to speak. He wanted to retort, but he didn't feel confident in his defense. Hanju looked at him and said, if you want someone to give up something, you have to reach for it and see what it is. If it's really barren, you will have a firm Tao heart to convince others. If you haven't smelled the fragrance of flowers, how can you say that they are useless? Shurin was convinced. Grandmaster, you're right. Shurin sighed. Shurin's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability. For stars, if anyone else said that, he would definitely look down on them. But it was different when it came from Hanju. After all, Hanju had given up the chance to ascend. He would rather offend the heavenly court to protect the lives of the world. This righteousness was what Chu yearned for. He also wanted to be like Hanju, someone who could truly contribute to the world. A line of words appeared in front of Hanju. Detected bearer of connate Providence, check its origin. Hanju raised his eyebrows and immediately chose to check. Zhou Mingyue, second level of the Golden Core Realm, the reincarnation of the upper world demon race's great sage equaling heaven. His master is one of the 5 great Buddhas, Buddha Bodhi. Because he defied the heavenly court's rule, he was hunted down by them. Later, he attacked the heavenly court and was suppressed by the heavenly emperor with a supreme mystical power. His body was destroyed by the heavenly punishment and his soul entered the cycle of reincarnation. After hearing that the Jade Pure Sacred Sect had an immortal god, Zhou Mingyue specially came to acknowledge you as his master. Great sage equaling heaven of Buddha Bodhi, even now, you still say you aren't Sun Wukong. Why did this fellow who had caused trouble in the heavenly court come to his mortal world? Hanju instinctively resisted. After obtaining the heavenly Dao token, he only knew so much about the mortal world. How could so many people reincarnate in front of him? No, I have to ask Mengpa. After all, Mengpa was in charge of the Bridge of Forgetfulness. She was definitely the one responsible for reincarnation. Hanju replied to Chu Shirin and then returned to the connate cave abode. His essence soul immediately left his body and jumped into the netherworld. As his cultivation increased greatly, Hanju quickly caught Mengpo's aura and arrived in front of the Bridge of Forgetfulness. The souls in front of the Bridge of Forgetfulness formed a long line, and the end was covered by the netherworld ghost fog. Why are there so many souls? Hanju frowned. It didn't have so many souls last time. Heavenly Court's prodigy, you're willing to come and see this old lady at last? Mengpo's voice entered his ears, her tone filled with teasing. During this period of time, another mortal world has been cleaned up by the heavenly court. All the living beings in the world have to be reincarnated. I'm going to be very busy.